guys, so now it's time to get this cutting board glued up. So there are a few things that you're going to need for this. Obviously, glue. I'm going to be using Titebond 3 for this. There are a few different options. Just use wood glue. Something with which to spread the glue, preferably. You don't necessarily need this. Some people have fancy patterns that they like to put the glue down in that they think works perfectly well. Yeah, that's fine. Ideally, you want to spread it around and get a nice even thin coat on the entire surface before you press the wood together. If you're doing this in bulk, a lot of people like to use rollers and roll on the glue nice and thin and even. I'm not doing it in bulk, really. I'm only doing one cutting board at a time for a total of 2 at the moment. So I'm just going to use a piece of stiff cardboard to spread it out. And finally, you need clamps. Okay, obviously not one of those tiny clamps. You need, well, clamps that are big enough and that you can use to put lots of pressure on the wood, at least for the first hour. And you need as many of them as you can get. It's always best to have nice even clamping pressure kind of throughout the piece. It's not absolutely necessary to have it throughout, but the more clamps you can get on there, the better it's going to turn out. So with that out of the way, I'll show you what I've got here for wood. You'll notice that the tops, because I'm doing a not end grain, I don't know what the hell it's called, I forget. Anyway, the pieces of wood are stood up, and the table saw that I used is ancient, like Moses ancient, so there's a lot of burning. I'm just going to plane that off after when I go in with my hand plane to make everything nice and even. So for now, let's take a look at what we're working with. Alright, so here it is, the butcher block. It's a foot wide this way and 20 inches in the other direction. Yes, I'm Canadian and I should be giving you metric measurements, but I'm old and I learned imperial first. So yeah, it's a foot, 12 inches by 20 inches. Alright, so I've got this thing set up on a couple pipe clamps to start with. That's what I'm going to use as my base to keep it flat, basically. And it's basically just because this is the way that these pipe clamps are designed, to create a surface to sit things on. I've also gone ahead and grabbed a square, which I'm going to use as a straight edge for getting the edges straight, and hopefully keeping the top relatively flat and square if I can. And then because things occasionally slide around when you're gluing them, it shouldn't be a big deal on something this small, but on a bigger piece it would be. I've grabbed myself a rubber mallet so I can beat this thing if it gets out of line. I've left myself some room in these pipe clamps. I haven't closed them in. What I'm going to do is just move pieces over one at a time and apply the glue to them. In fact, I'm going to start on the opposite side here, because I bloody well feel like it. So I'm going to pull the camera in now to a point where you'll be able to watch me do this more easily, and I'll probably speed up the footage because, or I'll cut a bunch of it out, we'll see. Well, you'll see. Anyway, enough yapping. Let's get to it. Alright guys, so here we have our block. I clamped it in as you saw, and then I waited about an hour and I loosened the clamps off just a little. At first I had them on there really tight, And after about an hour I loosened them off a little bit so that the glue wouldn't become super brittle. And then I left it overnight, and we're looking at about 20 hours later right now. So this thing's all dry and ready to go. The next step is to put it through the planer because it's not perfectly even. Go figure.